I have missed y'all. Where were you at last week? I put out a video, 0 views. Nah, I'm just kidding. I couldn't get a video out last week. I guided every day of the week. There were big storms every evening. I could have, put out something, but it just would have looked bad. It would have sounded terrible. So there was a big response to the bait casting video I did with Mike here at Anglers Anonymous, and a lot of the questions were, hey, what about a spinning reel? A spinning reel is a mystery to me. I'm excited about this. I even brought one of my own reels, so I might get some free work out of it.
There we go.
So, hey, I miss you. We're here with Mike. Let's talk about spinning reels. All right, so you go out, use your spinning reel, whether you're throwing popping cork, bait, lures, whatever you do with it. You come back in, you've been wading or boat fishing or whatever. Like I said, it's kind of a mystery to me. I throw it in the truck, but that's why I got to get them worked on. So, Mike, what would you do with a spinning reel whenever you get back in off the water?
Well, one of the things, spinning reels tend to get a little bit wetter because, especially if you're wade fishing, because the reel's on the bottom of the rod, so it's closer to the water. It tends to get splashed.
It's not on the bottom of the rod. Don't you? Oh, you hold it like this, don't you? Is that how you do it?
Not exactly.
That's not. Oh, all right. So, reel's on the bottom of the water. Go, Mike.
So anyway, we've expedited here. I've done a little bit of work just for sake of expediting the video. There's basically 4 spots you want to look at on the spinning reel. You've got 2 bearings on either side that are the bearings that are attached to the main gear. You've got the main shaft that slides up and down inside the pinion gear. You want to make sure you have a little oil on that. And then you've got the pinion gear itself. The pinion gear is usually the first point of failure. It's right there. You've got a stack of bearings along with your anti-reverse, which is down inside of there. So for general basic maintenance, unless the reel has been dunked, just putting some oil, a couple of drops over here, a couple of drops over there. Let that soak in there. You'll want to spin it and make sure that everything is spinning properly. You'll also want to put a couple of drops on your main shaft there. So those are the most common problem areas we see. A little bit of salt water gets down inside here and it locks everything up. That anti-reverse stops working. One of the bearings on the main shaft stops working, and then you're dead in the water.
So how many bearings does a spinning reel have? I mean, I know our bait casters have just their bearings everywhere. How many are really on this thing?
They're basically the ones that you're looking at that are critical. There's 4. There's usually 2 on this pinion gear, and then you've got 1 on either side of the main gear, which are accessible through here. Go ahead and take that off, and you can see there's a bearing inside there, and the same thing on the other side. Because these reels are basically ambidextrous, you can put the handle on either side. So, right. And yeah, there's usually a bearing on either side of the main gear, and then a stack of 2 bearings, and then your anti-reverse or your clutch bearing on that pinion gear.
See, I think that's the main request of my customers whenever they pick up the reel, like, hey, Captain, can you switch it to the other side?
Yeah.
And when you're out on the boat, I don't know what it is, but this little nut that goes on here,
oh yeah,
you need tools from NASA to get that thing off if you're on the water. When you're sitting here in Anglers Anonymous, like, oh, take it off. Yeah, look at it, guys. When you're on the water, no, it doesn't seem to work that way. Nope. So what about whenever you get off the water? I mean, do you rinse them off? What do you do?
It's kind of the same basic process you would do with your bait caster, and in my opinion, it's a very light spray. You might use a product like Reel Wash, Salt Away, something like that to kill the salt. But again, use it sparingly, just a little bit. You don't need a whole lot. Anything you use like that you put a lot into the reel, it's going to get in there and start breaking down lubricants, that sort of thing. Now, that's assuming the reel hasn't been dunked or submerged or dropped in the water or something like that. If you've done something like that, then you're looking at a much more in-depth service than what we're doing here.
See, this is an opportunity for me to name names, but I'm not going to because I love every one of my customers, but I could get you right here. I could get you.
Yep.
So what about the drag washers? This is the question that I got quite a bit. The drag washers, I was asked, on a spinning reel, do you need to back it off or tighten it? Are they the carbon tex like a bait caster, or are they still kind of the felt?
It depends on which reels you buy. Some are still the old felt cloth type drag washers.
Let's name names. What does this Lew's have?
Carbon Tex.
Carbon Tex. So, what does Shimano have?
Some of them are Carbon Tex, some of them are the fiber. It depends on the price of the reel you buy.
Let's talk about a Stratic. What does it have?
Carbon Tex.
Carbon Tex? Yeah. Okay, so the Stratic is what,
They're $210, yeah.
I love not knowing the answer to that.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so what about 13?
13. God, we didn't work on many 13s.
Okay.
I mean, they're primarily a Carbon Tex or a composite drag washer.
Y'all catch that? We don't work on many 13s. Come buy one from Mike. That's what he's saying right now. Okay, so just to be safe, probably back off the drag some.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the Carbon Tex drag washers. They're not as likely to have the issues that some of the older cloth or the graphite drag washers had, but it's a good idea to back them off.
So something that I had a problem with is I had a reel that, whenever I reeled it, it made all kinds of noise, and we fixed all this stuff in here, and it was still, it wouldn't make the noise unless I was reeling a lure hooked up to a fish. So Mike, show them the super secret nobody knows about a bearing.
It's this roller right here on the bail. If that gets, there's a bearing inside there. If that bearing gets a little bit of grit in it, things like that, you won't hear it until there's a fish on and that line is under pressure going across that roller. And when that roller starts to roll, it's going to sound like a bunch of gravel inside the reel.
See, when you look at it, it looks like it's solid.
Yep.
It looks like it doesn't spin. But this thing makes terrible noises. So if you've taken care of your reel and it's still making a bunch of noise, maybe you've got it wet, which I think is what I had done.
No.
This thing right here, that's the secret. And it wasn't that hard to replace.
No.
Not for you.
I mean, if you've got the parts, it's there. There's a certain order that things go in there that you've got to be conscious of.
Right.
But yeah, that's another place. Whenever you always want to put a drop of oil on that bearing, one on either side, spin it. One of the things you can do when you get the reel back together is take a little piece of fishing line, run it through there, and just run it back and forth to make sure that lubricant gets down inside that bearing.
And a way to check if your reel is making noise is that's what Mike and I did, or Mike did, I watched, but he put a piece of line through there and did that, and that's where all the racket was coming from.
Yep.
All right, so get off the water, give it a light spray, maybe some reel wash, maybe some salt away.
Yep.
If you want to, all you do is just back the drag off here, and this whole spool will come off. Give yourself a little bit of oil right there. To me, it's a simpler situation than a bait caster is.
Yeah, there's probably fewer moving parts in that one. I've never sat down and counted, but they're not that difficult to work on.
Okay, you got this little piece right here that kicks it in neutral or something. Huh?
Yeah, that's your anti-reverse. That engages and disengages your anti-reverse.
Well, there you go. So, any more questions you have down below, any more questions, put them down below, and I'll get with Mike. I'll make sure he answers it. Most of the time, if y'all ask me a question, I don't know it. It's a text or a call to Mike before I answer you. That way, I sound smart, but this is the man behind the scenes. If you need them clean, Mike, Anglers Anonymous here in Katy. If you need to buy a new one, Mike's a good place to come. So that's what we know about spinnerbaits. We got some season changes coming up. I'm about to start doing some different stuff on here. I had a question that was, what are the number one things you look for in a day to fish? Instead of fish every day, if you don't know, you won't go. What are the days that you need to call the boss, call the wife, make an excuse to get off of work? I'm gonna start doing some stuff like that. I'm thinking about doing one at the first of every month. That way, hey, for this month, this is what we're looking for. So if you think that's a good idea, hit it in the comments. But hey, Mike, Anglers Anonymous, Katy, Spinning Reels, hey, we're out here answering questions.
There we go.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, yep.
All
Here
right.
to serve.
Well, Mike, thank you so much.
You're always
and
welcome.
we will catch you on the next one.